Rajesh from ColorTokens, thank you very much for joining the Demos on Demand forum here. Quickly, why don't you give everybody a little bit of rundown on who you are and what you do at ColorTokens?
Sure. Thank you, Chase. Thanks for inviting me. Rajesh Khazanchi. I'm the co-founder and executive vice president of ColorTokens. I run products, which includes engineering, product management, marketing, and the sales effort at ColorTokens.
Super. And so getting into this, you and I have known each other for a while. Why don't you sort of give a little bit of run through on what ColorTokens is, and honestly answer the question. I'm sure you get this all the time, like why the name ColorTokens, and let's kind of figure it out from there.
Sure. This is towards the end of 2014, 2015, early, where there was a lot of conversations happening around the wave of segmentation, the journey of security, especially in the enterprise world, and the conversation started with segmentation, and then we thought about the colored networks, colored environments, red and blue. That kind of stuck us at that point in time. So from colored networks to colored environments to tokens, which is nothing but a symbol of security, that's how we originated the name of ColorTokens. So microsegmentation was a very early part of the time when microsegmentation came into existence. So we thought about naming it based on the core constructs of segmentation. So, and most importantly, we got the .com domain as well. So that's how we originated the word ColorTokens.
So when you say red and blue, can you describe a little bit, just because I want to make sure everyone's on the same page, when you say red and blue networks, what does that mean in your particular context?
So when you look at the core fundamental constructs of zero trust, essentially, one of the core mission for us was to put zero trust at the center of enterprise security. And by simplifying the challenges and accelerating the zero trust adoption for enterprises. And one of the core principles of zero trust has been around the principles of segmentations. So isolating networks, isolating environments becomes very, very important. The very simplified version of that, especially around 5-6 years back, was we used to use the word, colors to symbolize the way in which you are segmenting networks. And when I say red and blue, it was essentially how do you isolate these networks? How do you segment these particular environments so that when you're trying to provide, principles of least privileges, access to those particular controls, we use the word colors, and that actually symbolizes the whole principles.
Okay, so that's
where the whole core concept came.
Okay, interesting. So follow on to that. When you guys are talking about microsegmentation seems to be something that a lot of organizations are a bit hesitant to kind of dive in on because of their fear of knocking something over or shutting an app off or causing a problem for infrastructure. How do you work with organizations to get zero trust applied and move around the issue that they usually face about microsegmentation?
For that, Chase, let me take a couple of steps back, especially if you look at today's world. You have, cloud is your default data center. And the corporate networks have essentially dismantled, and more so in the last 1 year or so. The network has become essentially, internet is your new network. And if you look at applications, they have moved from a second generation applications to the third generation applications. By second generation, I mean mostly around virtual machine constructs to containers, microservices. And the consumption model of that has been essentially SaaS. So these are fundamental three very big shifts that we are seeing in the market. But if you look at security has been left far, far behind. And when you have such a massive change happening, that cloud adoption is at its peak, and people used to talk about network constructs, network architectures, DMZ environments, multiple layers of networks. That has completely dismantled. And applications are more and more SaaS consumed, but built on a newer architecture. It's very important to understand that the security has still not caught up to that particular pace. And today, when you have all these three things happening, the principles of security around, let me actually have a fort model in which I'm going to have a trusted, untrusted and semi-trusted environments, those principles don't work at all. Now, in order for you to do that, it becomes important to understand how do you basically enter into this environment where essentially most of your services could be deployed on cloud A, cloud B, cloud C. Most of your users might be accessing from home, from Starbucks, or from your office, or from any other place. So when you look at understanding these principles, it's important to first make sure that the fundamental philosophies are very clear, which means that analyzing your assets, understanding your assets, getting a complete view about your security posture becomes very important. And security understanding is on the four principles. Vulnerability becomes very important part. What vulnerable softwares, if there are any vulnerabilities in the software. Second is around risk and threat, especially the newer attacks. Third are the misconfigurations. And fourth is predominantly around the networks. So we provide a very comprehensive view across all these four verticals in a one common platform. That's number one. So that's analyzing your risk. Second is about when you are actually understanding, when you have a complete view and understanding about security posture, then it becomes very important to have an automation built, some kind of an intelligence built around segmentation. So we have a core engine on auto segmentation because it's extremely hard when you have lots of resources. Even 5,000, 10,000 servers can become a very daunting task for customers to start actually defining policies, applying policies. So intelligence needs to be there. So we have an auto segmentation that enables customers to really imbibe this particular construct of how do I actually quickly create auto groups, auto tags, and then define those particular policies essentially, which are very easy to implement. The third one is people are concerned about having disruptions. Zero trust, if you implement, and a lot of people are worried about their jobs because if applications are not working, people can get fired. So we have built a confidence engine, which essentially means that it gives you a very simple score, essentially around policies, essentially around the confidence level of the business disruption. If your confidence is very high, that means one should be implementing these policies. This is all completely intelligence that we gather over the period of time. So you have identity based, you have application awareness, you have historical network information, you have threat, you have vulnerability data, all that feeding in to provide that entire intelligence based on that. Once you have that confidence, we also provide you a dynamic policy graph. See, today, if you look at policies, they are very static in nature. Most of the common solutions in the market, you apply policies, and unless and until you have some kind of a monitoring mechanism, there's no way to analyze these policies if it's applicable after 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, or so. We have a dynamic policy engine that enables you to understand, okay, what is the risk assessment at every single point in time? What does it mean if you're applying patches, if you're upgrading the software, if a new configuration change has happened? The policy reassessment engine enables you to understand, and this is all built-in automated, which means that first we provide you the complete deep visibility across those four areas. Then we give you the confidence engine, essentially giving you a simple score of business disruption, and then help you understand from a pictorial way and give you a dynamic assessment of the policies. These are the two core principles that we are actually giving you just to make sure that the simplicity and the implementation is much, much easier in the zero trust. The last one is value realization. Very importantly, we have seen customers talking about, okay, if I implement zero trust, how do I understand that this implementation is right and we are on the right track? So we have core integrations and native integrations with some of the solutions in the market. This could be your SIM tools, this could be your instant response mechanism, this could be your Tableaus and reporting mechanism. And last but not the least, that, for example, a lot of the solutions give you analysis of what policies they have, what kind of a net flows, network traffic they have. We give you all the information. We have billions of transactions. We give you analysis of that. It helps in a comprehensive audit and compliance. So from giving you a complete visibility, security posture across 4 verticals around vulnerability, threat, and risk. Third one is misconfigurations, and fourth one is network, to giving you a confidence engine and continuous policy risk assessment engine, and then last but not the least, the value realization on zero trust. This is what we are actually delivering it, especially on the zero trust side.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So follow on to that is, with all the capability that you're offering and the fact that you're able to get organizations going, do you think that this is mainly a big enterprise issue? Is it small business? How do you deal with the fact that that everybody is part of the sort of cyber warfare landscape, and ZT applies for big enterprises plus small business?
So essentially, we are a cloud delivered platform, a SaaS consumed interface. So we don't differentiate between a large enterprises and the smaller one, the last 10 years or so, 8 or 10 years, because they are pretty much cloud first or cloud only solutions. So our platform essentially is spanned across virtual machine, physical machine constructs, essentially around the cloud workload protection, all the way goes up to the container microservices and serverless architectures. We don't differentiate between the two. We have agent-based and agentless technologies as well. We also integrate with most of these solutions. But there is one important difference between the larger enterprises and the smaller ones. Smaller ones are, I should say, a medium to lower segment of the enterprises. They are looking for one unified platform, especially around the cloud workload protection, segmentation with visibility. While as when we have looked at enterprises, they have they have made millions of dollars of investments into other tools. So it's very important for us to, at that time, build these connectors and ecosystems essentially around the enterprise ecosystem, which could be going, northbound integrations with some of the firewalling technology solutions, or the southbound solutions with SIM tools, incident response centers. While as when we have looked at the much smaller segment, I would say medium or lower enterprises, they are looking at essentially one comprehensive platform that gives you visibility on top of that segmentation and gives you reporting capabilities. But essentially, and most importantly, from physical to virtual, all the way going into containers and microservices.
So last point really here is, where do you think the market is going around zero trust, and where do you guys plan to push more innovation in the future as things continue to grow in the space?
If we look at the core principles of zero trust, identity plays a very important role. Segmentation is the second one, and the access control, the users, which are actually accessing these, the edge computing part of it. In terms of the value delivery, and this is not only for ColorTokens, but in general I'm talking about, these 3 core areas need to start working in collaboration. So identity is not just identity around users. It's about devices. It's about systems. It's about getting attributes and information about more and more the context around the user and device that they are using, which network they are actually connected over, encrypted versus not encrypted. So that becomes very, very important. And then stapling that identity, device identity, user identity, and so on and so forth, along with the networks becomes very important, because that way we now understand where is this entire information coming from, or what access controls we need to provide. Second is around the innovation, continuous innovation that is happening on the segmentation side, which means if you look at the 3rd generation architecture, it is impossible to do a manual segmentation. You need to provide recommendations, and eventually it will enter into an auto segmentation principles. And then the next innovation is happening around how do you provide that granular access from your user going all the way up to segments, which means these granular access needs to be based on attributes. This could be cloud attributes, this could be user attributes, this could be environment attributes, this could be time-based attributes, access at a particular time under certain conditions. So that is the fundamental innovation. It means essentially integrating with much more granular integration with identity and access layer. Second is core innovations in all these core, in these pillars, especially around automation. And when I say automation, it is intelligence-based automation. It is context-based automation. It's just not an orchestration layer, barely.
Well, thank you so much for joining. Looking forward to seeing the demonstrations, running through what you guys have and how you're doing things to enable zero trust for customers. Rajesh from ColorTokens, very interesting stuff. Looking forward to seeing more from this. Thanks again for participating.
Thank you. Thanks, Chase. Thanks.